guys, welcome back to my channel. I cannot believe I'm sitting down to film this video. This is our 5-week bump date. It's so crazy to say. Okay, so a little background story for those of you who are new or haven't gone over to see our vlog channel. We conceived our baby, oh my gosh, we conceived our baby through IVF. We have been through a long journey and have discovered through doing a second egg retrieval that we had a lot of genetically abnormal embryos. So we have actually done a transfer to try to get pregnant through IVF 4 times and have lost the babies really early. And one time went a little bit longer, but we did test and find out that that baby was genetically abnormal. So we did IVF again and ended up with a genetically normal embryo that we transferred just a couple weeks ago. And this is our 4AA day 5 genetically normal embryo. That is right here. I can't believe it. I am just in utter shock. I think sitting down doing this is helping me let it sink in. I waited until today to film this bump date because we ended up with these that I will get to in just a second. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of questions about our beta levels. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, I share a lot there. That's usually where we share first. And so I was taking pregnancy tests and I showed you guys, I think my second one all alone, and then I showed you guys on stories all of them all together. When we first took it, I'll insert a clip here from the vlog so you can see a little bit better. It was very light the first day, super excited to take this test, and it showed up on the screen right away, super faint, but it was definitely clearly there, more clear than it has ever been for me in the past. So I've gone through beta tests, which is the blood work for your HCG level, and I have watched it not climb properly in the past with our genetically abnormal embryos, and I just didn't want to deal with that stress. So I took this 4 days before we were supposed to do our blood test, and I decided we are not going to do blood test early, and so I just waited. So I took another test 2 days later and got to see the line got darker. So I was content and happy with that and totally fine waiting 2 more days for the beta. So at this point, I took all 3 tests, and I want to tell you something for those of you who are taking tests to kind of make yourself feel better. That morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. and took this little measly test over here. And I panicked because the test to me was a lot, even now, it is lighter than this one. It was from a different box. I woke up at 5 a.m. and for me, I have learned that people say your first wake up morning pee, go pee on a stick. For me, that's not actually the best time. I don't know why, maybe I just hold on to water all night, and so I'm super diluted in the morning. So this test was lighter, and I spent most of the morning trying not to be discouraged, but feeling really discouraged. So I've been spending most of the morning just breathing and praying. So at 2 in the afternoon, I took another test, and it was darker than the one from 2 days ago, way darker than the 5 a.m. test. So I'm just saying that and sharing that with you, that if you take a test and it gets lighter, I have done that in the past where it ended up in chemical pregnancies and it didn't turn out in good outcome. But I also want to tell you with this strong, amazing pregnancy so far that I did get a little bit lighter, but it was also a conditional time of day that just a few hours later took another test and it was a whole different ball game. So I just more want to encourage you to breathe and try not to panic, and every 48 hours to 72 hours your beta is supposed to be doubling to kind of recheck it then, and try to just breathe and relax, which is almost impossible. We have gone through so much, and trying to be patient through it was really hard. So on the 3rd test, we went in for our first beta. So my line was almost as dark as the control line, and our first beta level came back at 297. Our first beta levels have never been over 100. So I was hoping for 300, but I knew that anything above 100 would be awesome and great and wonderful. But even more importantly, 2 days later after that, when I did my 4th test, Between these two, it was darker. It was darker than the control line. So I went into my beta test at some peace knowing that my HCG level was probably higher. My second beta level came back at 582. So it was like 12 shy of doubling. And so it's supposed to double within 48 to 72 hours. So as long as it goes up by 66%, you are still good. I was a little bit of a perfectionist and wanted it to more than double, but I think that's normal, that we just want to see the best signs possible that everything is going good. And then I ran out of first response tests. So I actually had grabbed some 88-cent tests and did the same thing. On the day that my first response test was darker than the control line, my little 88-cent ones, the line was not darker than control line, which was fine. It's a different test. It was still positive, but I did have another one. So 2 days later, on our third beta test, I took a cheapie test. And this one, even with this small one, the HCG level for myself, for my pregnancy line, was darker than the control line. So I went into that beta level also pretty confident that at least I knew it had increased. It went from 582 to 1159, which is 5 short of doubling. So again, I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to more than double, but I was so thrilled. I don't think I've ever had a beta over 1,000. Ever. When we carried our pregnancy that ended at 11 weeks, I think we just stopped doing beta tests because they were never looking that great, and we just moved to ultrasounds and just forgot the blood work. So if I was searching to find out 5 weeks, what should I be experiencing, I would want to know beta levels because I would be curious on that. And secondly, symptoms. A lot of people say that there really aren't any pregnancy symptoms before 6 weeks. But I think when you are super in tune with your body and you are really looking at what's going on, you can feel things. It can be hormone related, it can be PMS related, but it could also be pregnancy related. So I'm going to share with you some of the symptoms that I have felt over the last couple of weeks. So we did our IVF transfer with a 5-day embryo. So that means I was on progesterone injections and estrogen pills and patches to have like a mock cycle. So the medication was doing the cycle for me, but it kind of goes through the cycle the same way. I ovulated and started my progesterone, and then 5 days after I ovulated, we did the transfer. I remember before I got out of the car from driving home from the transfer feeling like, oh, I feel like I felt this before. But usually it wasn't for like 24 hours after the transfer. It almost felt like this little quick little I need to take my pills. It almost felt like a quick little cramp. And I felt like, I feel like I felt that before, and I know in the past I have thought that that was implantation, but it was so early. It was like a couple hours after the transfer, maybe an hour after the transfer. So I didn't think much of it. And then I did some bed rest after the transfer. Not normal for pregnancy, no one has to worry about that, but when you go through fertility, different doctors have different things that they want you to do. So I have gotten pregnant before, I have done the bed rest before. I felt confident sticking with the bed rest. I just make sure that I have good circulation in my legs. I still get up and use the restroom and all of that. I just more am relaxing for the few days after. But I remember when I was doing the bed rest right here just a few weeks ago, I was feeling a little bit more crampy than I've ever felt in the past. Like for 3 days I just kept feeling pretty crampy. I would call them super mild. Like if you weren't really trying to pay attention and you were just going about your day, maybe you wouldn't have noticed them. But laying in bed, being very aware of what's going on, I noticed the cramps, and they were so much more, to the point where I almost wanted them to go away so I knew that nothing bad was going on also. But it lasted for about like 3 days, and then they pretty much subsided. And then I wanted them back because I wanted to feel something, to feel like, okay, this is happening. So that would be like right around implantation time, 5 to 8 days after I ovulated. And then even now I will get some cramps from time to time, like very subtle, very gentle, but definitely something that's going on. I don't know how TMI we want to get on this channel. Leave it in the comments below and tell me how TMI you want me to get. But my uterus is actually tilted forward a little bit, so like more against my abdomen than like in my back, if that makes sense. So I feel like I can feel a lot more, but maybe that's totally in my head. So I'm curious if that might be why I feel the cramping a little bit more. So that was the only symptom that I could say that felt like specifically to pregnancy. Because I am on progesterone injections and estrogen pills and patches, because hormones are such a player into this too, that sometimes we want to know, is it the pregnancy? Is it my hormones? Am I about to start my cycle? I don't know. The estrogen and progesterone have probably kicked in and the hormones are strong. I would say this week I was super weepy over the last couple of days. And for those of you who follow us over on our vlog channel know that I am a very, I would say, how do I even say it? I'm just not emotional. I am very logical. I don't get worked up very easily. I don't get flustered. I am pretty just even keeled. So my husband gets to have these like emotional highs and lows, and I'm just staying right here in the middle. But it's been really interesting since being on all these hormones. I just keep telling him, I just feel like I want to cry, and I feel like I need to turn on a good sad movie to get it out, but I haven't yet. So I just constantly have this little like quiver, or I feel snappy. So I feel like my hormones are starting to kind of go all over the place, that my body's learning how to deal. But today's actually a really good day, so I'm glad that no weepy today, no snapping today. Today's a good day. So one of the symptoms I feel like I hear a lot is that your chest gets sore, and I kind of been waiting for that symptom to come. And I would say it wasn't until yesterday, which would be 5 weeks and 1 day, that I started feeling, okay, I am starting to get a little bit more full, and I can see that they're going to start getting sore. It's not uncomfortable, but I know by the end of the day, I was ready to strip down and get into my comfortable pajamas. And then fatigue is something I hear a lot that I'm anticipating coming on strong later. But for now, I think I've taken about 2 or 3 naps in the middle of the day, and I don't love them because I wake up feeling a little groggy, but I like taking them knowing that this is a symptom that I'm going to give into, and I'm gonna just close my eyes for a minute, and the next thing I know, I wake up and it's an hour later. So naps, good to go so far, and I'm sure more to come. But yeah. I'm not drinking any coffee, so we will see how the fatigue goes as the bump dates continue. Okay. And then I was asking Philip, what are some of the symptoms that you've noticed that I have been having? And he said, you are sensitive. Not awful, but just enough where I'm just sensitive where he might ask me a question and I might be sad over a jar of pickles. I don't know. I just feel sensitive over nothing, and it's pretty wonderful to know that there's actually like a good solid reason to feel these hormones and to feel sad and to feel happy and to feel all the emotions. And I am going to be annoying and saying I love every symptom. We have waited a long time for this, so I am embracing every symptom and I love it. Lastly, I would say I am not nauseous at all, but I would say I have a sense, a touch of uneasiness. So I feel just a little bit uneasy, so I want to eat something just to make myself feel a little bit better. So because of that, I've noticed myself snacking a little bit more. So I know I don't need to eat any more than I normally do right now, but just to make my stomach feel a little bit at ease, I've been having a little bit more snacks. Okay, and then the best part of today's video, I think you guys have all been waiting for, is this one. I almost did the bump date yesterday, but I thought I just want to do the ultrasound. So because we are an IVF patient, because we're being seen by a fertility doctor, you're going to see a lot more in bump dates with ultrasounds and things like that, because the doctors keep such a really close eye on you. And so most people would not be doing an ultrasound at 5 weeks, because what are you going to see? Nothing. You just see an empty sac. And I went in again hoping that I was going to see just a little bit more than just a black empty sac, just to give myself a little peace of mind. And we indeed saw the gestational sac, which is the little black circle inside of the uterus. And then inside the black sac, you could see just the start of the yolk sac. So it looks like a little circle. So hopefully by next week, We'll have a good solid circle, which is the yolk sac inside, and a little fetal pole, which like is a little line. So I'm excited for that. I am hoping that maybe next week we could possibly have a heartbeat, but we will see. If you guys enjoyed today's video and love hearing about the pregnancy tests and the ultrasounds and the everything, this has been a long journey for us. I don't want to say we never thought we would get here, but Philip and I were talking today of, I can't believe we got here, and I'm thankful that we didn't give up. So if you guys are in a season where you are wanting to get pregnant, you've been trying to get pregnant, you are going through infertility, we are here for you. We love you. We want to hear from you and hear your story. And I hope that this just encourages you that anything is possible and we do not take anything for granted. And I am just so excited to go on this journey with you guys. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button and like today's video. I'm going to be sharing so much more. I just feel so privileged and so lucky, and I'm hoping it's gonna start sinking in more. I feel like I see what's going on, but mentally I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, like this is actually happening. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Mwah.